What is up, everybody? It is Jay here, and today we are kicking off Pride Month, happy Pride by the way, by talking about exclusion and gatekeeping. So, the reason I want to talk about this is because last night I reblogged a post on Tumblr that was basically saying I feel that asexual and aromantic people deserve to be able to participate in Pride and in other LGBT organisations, and I got a message that, in no fewer words, said cishet people don't need Pride and shouldn't participate in it. And it made me sad to see that somebody who saw my post, so someone who was following me, saw that and felt the need to message me. Doubled up with the fact that they were on Anon, so they knew that it was something that they really shouldn't be saying. If you cannot say it off Anon, you probably shouldn't be saying it, kids. And it just made me really angry that that was still something that we were dealing with. They were still dealing with the idea of excluding people from the LGBT community. So we're going to talk about it, because the only way to solve these problems is talking. So for those of you who don't know, gatekeeping basically means checking that someone is queer enough when they join like an LGBT group, and it's really gross. I think it's really gross, because I think that the LGBT community should be about opening doors rather than closing them, and helping people and creating a healthy community rather than cutting ourselves off. Now, granted, I do understand the need to keep cishet people out of LGBT spaces, because I do absolutely agree and understand that I would not want a trans group that I go to have cis participants, because it's a trans group, it's for us. And I understand that desire, but I think when people say that we don't want to let oppressors into our community, they forget that there are oppressors in your community already. I, as a trans person, am part of the LGBT community. The LGBT community contains plenty of cis people. Cis people are, in terms of like the groups oppressing each other, my oppressors. Now, I don't feel like every single cis person ever has oppressed me, don't get me wrong, and I don't think individual cis people are oppressing me, but if you work off that logic, like, then there should be no cis people allowed in the LGBT community. I can't believe they're in here. By that same logic, straight trans people shouldn't be allowed in the LGBT community because they're straight. If you continue on with that kind of logic, then you have like queer people of colour, then white people shouldn't be allowed because they oppress people of colour. Or queer disabled people, that like abled people shouldn't be allowed because they're oppressing the queer disabled people. You know, like, if you are in the LGBT community, unless you are like really super privileged, there's going to be, like, I can't think of someone in the LGBT community who doesn't share the community with someone who oppresses them. Because even if you're like a white, cisgender, gay man, like, okay, no one's pressing you because you're a man or because you're cis or because you're white, but you're gay and there are straight trans people. So, like, the idea of keeping your oppressors out of your community only goes so far, because then you suddenly realize that your oppressors are already in your community, that they're already there, like, and that is just how the community has functioned for quite a long time. And, you know, excluding people who show the slightest hint of having some part of their identity that fits into a cis heteronormative standard is fucking dumb. Moving on from that, people acting like asexual and aromantic people, or in other cases like non-binary people and like even just trans people in general, don't experience problems is ridiculous. I've heard asexual and aromantic people say things that are very similar to other queer people's experiences, in terms of saying that, like, they didn't know what was wrong with them and they felt broken, or coming out to someone and then being told, like, oh, you'll meet the right person someday, or having experiences with, and like, trigger warning for sexual assault, like corrective rape and stuff, being told that they would like be fucked into liking sex and stuff. And like, the fact of the matter is, for like asexual people, whether they're cis and like heterosexual, heteroromantic alongside their ace or aromantic identity, like, the fact of the matter is they don't fit into our cis heteronormative standards. of what it is to be a person and be a person in terms of your sexuality and your gender. They don't fit that standard, and to act like they do is just ignoring the fact that they are ace and ignoring the fact that they're aromantic. If you see like a non-binary person, again, like if you have, like, let's say a non-binary person who is assigned female at birth, who dates men and presents really, really femininely, like for you to say that they're basically a cishet is just ignoring that they told you they're non-binary. You know, you're just blatantly ignoring that fact. I know that there are plenty of like binary trans people who are really like against non-binary people, and I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, to me, the definition of being trans has always been, and probably always will be, to identify as anything other than your assigned gender. So if you're non-binary, that counts. Like, my definition of trans has never been limited to men identifying as women, women identifying as men, and that kind of like really binary kind of very low level understanding of trans identity, which isn't like necessarily wrong, you know, like it's not like, if that's how you understand yourself, then feel free, but that is not how I understand a broad definition of what it means to be trans for the entire trans community, not just for myself. And especially like when it comes to, you see people like talking about like trans people who like not being trans enough because like they don't take hormones or because they don't get surgery, and then, oh, God forbid and all harm, the worst phrase I've ever heard in my life: you're the reason why it's so hard to transition. Good Lord. The exclusion and the gatekeeping in the LGBT community is horrible. And yes, there is gatekeeping outside of the community. Queer people are like tested by cishet people. Trans people have to be diagnosed as being trans by doctors to transition in so many places. People are tested on how queer they are. Like, are you really sure? Have you ever tried it? What if you do this? What if you do that? Would you ever do this? You know, like if you were the last man and woman on earth, would you break away from your gay identity and bang this woman? You know, that kind of ridiculous shit. People are so keen on seeing how really queer you are when you're outside of the community, and it's so demeaning and unfair to then see that happening within the community. Unless someone arrives in the community and says, hi, I identify with the gender that I was assigned at birth, and I am solely sexually and romantically attracted to people of the opposite gender, in air quotes, because the opposite gender thing is a bit weird. Unless someone shows up and says that, you have no right to act like they're not queer. Unless they literally fit the definition of a cisgender person who identifies with their assigned gender, a heterosexual person who is sexually attracted to people of the opposite gender, and heteroromantic, someone who is romantically attracted to people of the opposite gender, then you have no right to act like they are not queer enough. Because that's all it means to be LGBT. It means you're not cishet. Not being queer is not being cishet. That's all it is. And I don't care how much of your identity is queer or not, because to invalidate someone based on how much of their identity is queer is acting like there is a line you have to reach, and it is valuing certain parts of identity more than others. Thank you for watching this video, and if you liked it, please do click the like button below. The comment section is absolutely open, because I've said a lot of things here and I've talked about a lot of like exclusion and gatekeeping, and if you guys have a different opinion to me, I would actually really like to hear, like obviously in a respectful, like polite way, why you feel that way, because I would like to understand why people are so keen to exclude certain people, and I would like to understand why you feel threatened by these people, and like why you don't want them in your community, because I really don't understand it. And if I had a better understanding of it, then maybe you would understand more where I'm coming from, I'll understand more where you're coming from, and like we can settle on something. And yeah, so comment section is open. Please do subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.